Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and in today's video we're going to take a look at the Dragonflight Warrior talent trees that have been first previewed on Alpha. It's worth noting obviously these trees tend to change a lot, all the ones that I've previewed before. If you want to look at the playlist in the description below to see me talk about all the other classes that they've done so far, a lot of those trees have changed a lot since then, and I'm sure Warrior will as well, so will not necessarily look like this even in a couple weeks' time. Also, I haven't personally looked at this yet, even though this video is a couple days after the patch came out. I've heard a lot of good stuff about the Warrior trees, but I've been very busy with Season 4 stuff, so I haven't been doing too much on the Alpha, but I figured I would take a look at these Warrior trees because, yeah, I've heard really good stuff about them, and I'm trying to do all the classes as well as they do come out. So my experience with Warrior, I was a Warrior main in Legion for most of Legion. I played Arms in Emerald Nightmare and Trial of Valor and Tomb of Sargeras, and I played Fury in Nighthold. I've played a little bit of Prot Warrior. Prot Warrior has been my alt for a couple of these past couple of tiers, like Castle Nathria. I think I alted Prot Warrior. Haven't played too... Oh, and I briefly mained Prot Warrior, or DPS Warrior, actually, during Sanctum Farm, so I have a little bit of experience with this class for sure. So, let's start off by taking a look at the base Warrior tree. So we start off with Battle Stance, Defensive Stance, or Berserker Stance, which obviously one of these you'll get for free based on whichever spec you're choosing. If you're a Fury Warrior, for instance, you get Berserker Stance for free, which says TBD/WIP, so to be determined / work in progress, a damage of auto attacks by 5%, and reduce the effectiveness of Fear Sap and Incap effects on you. Okay. Whereas Defensive Stance reduces all damage you take and all damage you deal. Interesting, so it's like PvP Defensive Stance is currently what they're on for D-Stance, but yeah, to be determined, so they may change how these stances function. And then the Battle Stance comes with crit chance and reducing the effectiveness of movement impairing effects on you. Interesting. Okay, now just below that, we have movement speed increase over here on the far left, kind of on the Arms side. Rally between Arms and Prot. We've got Intervene or Second Wind here. So either Intervene to protect somebody from damage. This is really good for, obviously, tanks. And it's also really good for Arms Warriors with Die by the Sword currently. I don't know whether Die by the Sword or any kind of guaranteed parry stuff is still available in Dragonflight. Second Wind, restoring health over time when you haven't taken damage for 5 seconds. Could be potentially good, especially this. I don't think this has been I don't think Prot's been able to get this. Maybe it has. But certain fights, I could see this being pretty good on if you are low health and far away from healers, but not actually taking damage. Also in M+, running between areas. Usually, though, this kind of thing's not too... it doesn't really provide that much healing when you actually need it ever. Berserker Rage, immune to Fear Sap Incap effects. This is a button you can definitely not click for PvE and be fine. It is good in a couple of spots, though, situationally. They do make dungeons where this effect is actually really nice. There are a few of them in Shadowlands as well, like Mists. And there are a few effects even in the Season 4 dungeons as well. This is good against. Ooh, a 5% leech over here. That's a lot of leech percent. Goodness gracious. Okay, usually we see... I guess the nodes that have been hybrid leech and something else have been 2 or 3%, so... That's still a lot of leech, though. Double time, an extra charge on charge, and reduce the cooldown by 3 seconds. Very nice quality of life. Rally, ooh, 25% increase on duration and health. You can see the 25% is still in white text here because they've literally just yoinked the formatting from the conduit where that number scaled with the eye level of the conduit. Spell Reflect, ooh, okay, everybody can get that, but you gotta talent it. Berserker Shout. All right, now Berserker Shout and Berserker Rage appear to have the exact same text. My guess is that Berserker Shout is intended to be a party-wide version of this, which would be actually really nice utility for Warrior in some dungeons, so I like that. That spec needs some more utility for dungeons. I guess PvP would be good. Heroic Leap is over here, so again, kind of core stuff that Warriors are used to. You're gonna have to go all over the top of the tree to grab it all if you want it in Dragonflight. Honed Reflexes, a little bit of a cooldown reduction on Pummel, Shield Slam, Overpower, and Bloodthirst. So that's rotational abilities as well as your Interrupt. DPS increase, I suspect. Stormbolt, a stun, or Titanic Throw. I guess Heroic Throw, but AoE Heroic Throw. That's kind of cool. Yeah, interesting. Intimidating Shout, AoE Fear. Still target capped. Okay. Impending Victory, which used to replace Victory Rush. I don't know if Victory Rush... I do see Victory Rush on my bars right now, so it looks like maybe it still does. That is on a cooldown and resets when Victory Rush would. Piercing Howl is the other option here. AoE Slow. Furious Blows, a damage increase on Bloodthirst, Slam, Shield Slam, and Whirlwind. Okay, so DPS warriors are going to be pulled towards these two passives, I suspect, because they are damage. Here we've got Massacre. Execute usable on targets below 35% health. Nice damage buff for 1 point. Rend versus Pain and Gain, which is whenever you take damage... Okay, so this is kind of like that conduit that came out in Sanctum for everybody. Heal for 4.5% of your max health, but only once every 10 seconds. Not a huge amount of HPS. I suspect you'll be interested in Rend if that's just a good rotational button, even maybe for Prot Warriors. Thunderclap, AoE thing for damage and movement speed reduction. I assume Prot Warrior... It's kind of weird this is on the default tree. Let's see how that works out. Yeah, I wonder if DPS Warriors are ever interested. Intimidating Shout, withstanding more damage before breaking. Not something you need to talent, probably, for PvE. War Machine, more rage and extra rage on killing an enemy. Really good point for one passive. I think this used to just be a Fury talent, but I suspect that this will be kind of a banger for everybody. At least for Shadowlands Arms and Shadowlands Prot, I think this would be pretty good. Shattering Throw, which is really nice against Absorb Shields. It doesn't say anything about breaking immunities like it currently does. I wonder if that functionality is still there. Bounding Stride, Heroic Leap buff. That one's a nice one as well. Whirlwind, if it hits 3 or more enemies, hits them an additional time. Okay. You gain strength equal to 10% of your armor value. Ooh, this is nice. This is not really something you see in WoW often, but you see this in other sort of games, right? To, like, give you offense based on how much defense you have and that kind of stuff. You're not usually going to have, like armor value is not really something you think about or you change how much you have ever. Although sometimes they do make items with weird amounts of armor, with extra bonus armor, but not recently too much. Blood and Thunder, extra Thunderclap damage. Ooh, and Thunderclap spreads your Rend. That's sweet. Crackling Thunder, radius increase on Thunderclap instead. I suspect that Blood and Thunder is going to be good if you can get away with it, because, yeah, spreading Rend is... I mean, that's a lot of damage, probably. Crushing Force, Shield Slam and Shield... Oh, Shield Slam and Slam damage increased. That one takes a while to read because it just says Slam and Slam in the middle of it. Massive Rage, or Maximum Rage increase. Ooh, Die by the Sword. You don't need to be arms to get this anymore. So Prot could take Die by the Sword and have full parry as well. Or Fury. Oh, kind of cool. One-handed weapon spec increases Leech. Now, if I had to guess, and I do since this is my video, my guess is that the increases Leech by 10% here is a placeholder, because that seems like a weird effect to be named one-handed weapon spec. Dauntless Duelist. Oh, this is a Venthyr, like Nadia Soulbind node. Pretty thematic for Warrior, though. I like it going there. Yeah, so it's 3% damage increase, and they deal 1.5% less damage to you, but only on a single target, really, or only to one target per pull. Frothing Berserker, your abilities that cost rage have a 20% chance to immediately refund 20% of the rage spent. 20% of 20% is 4%, so it's you're effectively going to see 4% more rage on this. Not a hugely impressive amount of rage refunds on that thing. Compared to, there were some other effects. Yeah, like auto attacks generating 50% more rage. I suspect this is more than that by quite a lot. I'm not sure, though. Okay, what do we got down here? We got crit chance by 2%. Armor by 30% of your strength. Oh, cool. So you can get strength by increase your strength by your armor, increase your armor by your strength. I like that. Stamina increase, haste increase. Okay, so all stats on this row. Here we have two-handed weapon spec. Increase your damage dealt when using a single two-handed weapon. Work in progress allows dual wield. So like Titan's Grip? No way, right? No way they just put that over there. Spear Bastion. Ooh, cool. Spear Bastion's coming back. Love that. Avatar. Okay. Yeah, 20% increased damage. I wonder if you'll grab this as like Fury now that you can. Bitter Immunity. Restores health instantly and removes all diseases, poisons, curses, and bleeds affecting you. Ooh, a little dwarf racial. 3-minute cooldown, though. Shockwave, AoE stun. Thunderous Roar. Little AoE thing. And dual wield spec. Okay. Down here, either Elysian Might, the Spear Bastion legendary, or Piercing Verdict, the Spear Bastion conduit. Signet of Tormented Kings, Bladestorm Wreck, or Avatar randomly activates one of the other two. This one was a Torghast power and then a legendary, and it was a good legendary for, I want to say for Fury for a while. Avatar increases damage to Thunderclap and reduces its cooldown. Oh, that's back. This makes a playstyle of smashing your face against the Thunderclap button when you're a Pot Warrior, which a lot of people liked that. I wasn't actually a huge fan of that, but a lot of people liked it, and it was powerful. When Shockwave strikes at least 3 targets, its cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. And then down here, Thunderous Roar knocks enemies down and causes aftershocks that generate additional rage. Cool. Oh, it's interesting. They changed it from being named Dragon Roar, which is what this used to be named, because dragon abilities have been, just like when they took meta away from Warlocks, right? They're purging the dragon theme from the warriors. Sag. Okay, well, that's the default warrior tree. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. I've heard people complaining about this stat line, but I feel like this is fine. The stats row to be down here. It's only 2-point nodes as well, and honestly, I don't know. I like talenting into a little bit of stats. I prefer this to some of the nodes that exist on some of the other trees. They're just like that just don't do anything at all. Okay, Fury. Let's take a look here. We've got Bloodthirst at the top, Raging Blow. Enraged Regen. Oh, so you don't even have to talent into your defensive. Interesting. Improved Execute. Execute no longer costs Rage and now generates Rage. Okay. And improved Enrage. Enrage increases your haste and movement speed. Okay, so I think all of this is pretty much baseline for Fury before. Bloodthirst damage increase. You take less damage while Enrage is active. Does Enrage... Let's see. Does Enrage increase your damage taken by default still? Or in this expansion, rather? No, just a damage. Okay, so it doesn't increase your damage, because I remember in Legion it used to. I was curious if they brought that back. So yeah, you don't take extra damage with Enrage being active ever, but if you Warpaint, you actually take reduced damage, just a flat 10% DR for a lot of the fight. Sudden Death, Execute procs. Invigorating Fury. Ooh, when you press Enraged Regen, you instantly get healed, and it lasts longer. That's kind of cool, although that's a talent point that doesn't increase your DPS. Cooldown of Pummel is reduced. Successfully interrupting an enemy increases the damage you deal against them by 5% for 10 seconds. Only once every 30 seconds. Okay, so not a huge gain there. Raging Blow, extra charge, and chance to reset its own cooldown. Focus in Chaos. Your attacks have no penalty to hit from dual wielding during Enrage. Ooh. You don't need to click on this when you're doing Halandris, because Halandris already can't... your attacks can't miss against that thing. Fun fact. Rampage. Yep, okay, that's a very core ability, so be happy when you get high enough level to click this as a Fury Warrior when you're leveling. Improved Whirlwind. What will you do with your Rage until then? You won't have a Rage Spender, you'll just have a full Rage bar, right? When you're leveling as a Fury Warrior until like level 20 when you get this thing. Improved Whirlwind. Whirlwind causes your next 2 single target attacks to strike up to 4 additional targets for 45% damage. Whirlwind no longer costs Rage, instead it generates Rage. Nice. Okay, so yeah, Whirlwind, this just makes Whirlwind function in AoE, but you don't need to take this in pure single, maybe. Single-minded Fury. Okay, so while dual-wielding a pair of one-handed weapons, your damage done is increased by 12%, and your movement speed is increased by 5%. So this is where Single-Minded Fury is. I wonder where Titan's Grip is, the other option that is up against that of, taking two-handed weapons instead. I hope that's somewhere on here, of course. Blood Craze. Bloodthirst increases crit chance of your next Bloodthirst. Bloodthirst always enrages you the first time you strike a target, and it has increased chance to trigger enrage. This talent, I think you used to never take this, but it was on the old talent tree, but now you can. Rampage increases your haste, stacking up to 4 times, but it's reset if you rampage a different target. Don't take this in AoE or M+ usually, although, for 1 point, maybe. Rampage causes you to become enraged, and rampage damage is increased. Very nice quality of life and damage. While enraged, Raging Blow deals more damage and has an increased or extra chance to instantly reset its own cooldown. Oh, there's Titan's Grip. Okay. So dual wielding two-handers for you don't get the damage buff like Single-Minded Fury gives you, but the weapons inherently do more damage. Onslaught, a 16-second cooldown. That cooldown text is in green, so that means it scales with haste. That you can only press during enrage, that generates a bunch of rage and does a bunch of damage. Okay, down here below Single-Minded Fury, we have auto attack damage with one-handed weapons is increased, and auto attack crits have a 50% chance to enrage you. That'll be 100% when you put 2 points into this thing. Golly. Okay, so you could have like full uptime enrage on Single-Minded Fury if you have enough crit. Bloodthirst deals increased damage to enemies who are below 35% health. Bloodthirst crits generate additional rage and inflict a gushing wound that leeches health over time. This was a really good Azerite trait back in the day. The question is just how it'll be scaled. But there's a lot of crit scaling, a lot of stuff that is telling you to invest in crit over here, which is cool. Recklessness, rage generation by 100% and 20% increased crit chance for 12 seconds. Meat Cleaver, whirlwind affects an extra attack and deals a bit more damage. Raging Blow damage increase, and Onslaught generates more rage and enrages you for 8 seconds. Ooh. Okay, down here, crit chance. Oh, Pulverize. Isn't that the same name? Isn't there a Guardian Druid ability called Pulverize as well? Not sure. Another crit chance over here. Ooh, the same spot in the tree here. Critical Thinking, Cruel Strikes. Crit chance. Crit's really good, though, for Fury, it looks like, especially if you're over on this side of the tree anyways. Haste chance, Verse chance, Master. Okay, so all 4 of the primary stats or the secondary stats are available down here. Cadence of Fugieda. So this was a legendary, giving you stacking haste on your Bloodthirst. Okay. Odin's Fury. I knew this was... Yeah, I heard this was coming back, which was the Legion artifact effect, doing some AoE damage on a cooldown. Looks really cool, though. That was the biggest thing about it. Anger Management, reducing the cooldown on Recklessness when you spend Rage, versus Recklessness, generating more Rage, or generating some Rage, and greatly empowering Bloodthirst and Raging Blow, and turning... I think it turns Raging Blow into a little charge as well, which can get you in trouble on some boss fights, so be careful. Siege Breaker, 30-second cooldown that increases your damage done to the target. And Ravagers over here. Okay, a little AoE button, probably good for M+, or at least hopefully worth considering for M+. Sidearm. Your autos have a chance to hurl weapons at your target and 3 other enemies in front of you. Ooh, so an AoE damage proc on your autos. Versus autos with one-handed weapons deal an additional 266 physical damage. Okay. So again, a lot of stuff over here that says good things, but only for one-handers. Bleed damage of Odin's Fury, Thunderous Roar, and Gushing Wound increased. Okay. Oh, so they're changing Odin's Fury to bleed. Odin's Fury used to be, I believe it was fire, and then you got like an Azerite trait that, or not an Azerite trait, but like a artifact power in 7.1 or 7.2 that made it fire and shadow or shadow or something. It would proc one of the two. It would proc Odin's Fury or Hellia's Scorn. That's cool. But now it's turned into a bleed to make it a little bit more... I wonder if it still has the old fiery animation. Let's do a little bit of detective work here real quick. And just... Oh, I got to take Titan's Grip as well because I got 2 one-handed weapons on my character right now. Or 2 two-handed weapons on my character right now. Okay. Let's see what Odin's Fury looks like. Okay, it doesn't have the old fiery animation anymore. It's just like a big whirlwind. Okay. It literally is just this animation, but with a little bit of a bleed explosion around it. Interesting. So kind of lost the worst part of Odin's Fury, which is the old graphic. Okay. What else do we have here? Recklessness lasts longer. Rampage has a chance to refund a charge of Raging Blow. You already got a bunch of Raging Blows if you have like Cruelty and Improved Raging Blow, but if not, maybe. I suspect you'll kind of be swimming in Raging Blows, but I'm not sure how the rotation will feel. Increased Siegebreaker's damage and duration, and Ravager duration over here. So, yeah, that's the Fury tree. Let me show you that Odin's Fury animation one more time before we switch off this spec. Very cool. Okay, let's take a look at Arms, the other DPS warrior spec, and then we will go to Prot as the third one. All right, so Arms, Evil Talent into Mortal Strike. Iconic ability. Used to be on the Arms talent tree back in Classic as well, I think. Just all the way down at like level 40. Now you get it right away. Overpower right after as well. Damage of Slam and Whirlwinds increased. Tactician procs. Okay, so you have a chance per rage spent to reset the remaining cooldown on Overpower. Improved Execute no longer has a cooldown, and if your foe survives, rage spent is refunded. Fervor of Battle, Whirlwind also slams your primary target. Oh, cool. Fervor of Battle, I think it used to have a different effect. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I remember briefly there being like a single target Whirlwind build. I wonder if that will be a thing again with this, maybe. You're healed for damage dealt by deep wounds. Overpower, increase the damage of your next Mortal Strike or Cleave. Your attacks have a chance to make your next Execute free. Cooldown of Pummel reduce. Okay, so a lot of these are the same talents we saw in the Fury tree, which makes sense. The specs are pretty closely related in a lot of their effects. And Mortal Strike has a chance to instantly reset its own cooldown. Fun. I always remember the old Tactician procs that reset Colossus Smash and Mortal Strike. And so if you were doing well, it would just be, you'd be pressing Colossus Smash, Mortal Strike, Colossus Smash, Mortal Strike, Colossus Smash, Mortal Strike. Good times. Impale, damaging crits deal additional damage. Okay, so a little bit more crit scaling here. This is another kind of talent that makes Critical Strike go way up in terms of how much stat weight it's worth. Sweeping Strikes, a little AoE button. We'll stay on the lookout for if you can avoid this whole branch and everything below it if you're not an M+. Like if you're just on pure single target. Colossus Smash, 1.5 minute cooldown to increase damage you deal to the targets by 30% for 10 seconds. Big cooldown there. Skull Splitter, a long cooldown, scales with haste. That does damage and generates some rage. Improved Overpower, damage of Overpower increased. Deadly Calm, 1 minute cooldown. Your next 4 abilities cost no rage. Exploit Weakness, this was a Legion Legendary, not Legion Legendary, a Legion Artifact node that you also could get the Artifact Relics to buff further. Tactician's chance to trigger is increased as if you spent more rage. Versus Punishment, to be determined / work in progress, Execute is now usable on targets who are above 80% health or below 20%. Oh, cool. So that turns it sort of like into Condemn, the Venthyr ability. Improved Sweeping Strikes. Sweeping Strikes last longer. Versus Collateral Damage. When Sweeping Strikes ends, your next Whirlwind deals increased damage for each ability used during Sweeping Strikes that damage the second target. Cool, so you can make a big Whirlwind after your Sweeping Strikes. In for the kill, Colossus Smash increases your haste by 10% or 20% if the target is below 20% health. Test of Might. When Colossus Smash expires, your strength is increased by 1% for every 10 rage you spent during it. This was a BFA... artifact trait, Azurite trait that was quite good. In for the kill seems pretty good too, though. This seems like it would naturally line up well with your damage, so I wonder which of these is going to be better. Improved Mortal Strike, damage increased on Mortal Strike. Cleave, mid cooldown that consumes your Overpower effect to deal increased damage, and that, yeah, just hits everything in front of you. Fracture, when Skull Splitter damages opponent, it causes your... it like exsanguinates your deep wounds and rend effects. Bloodborne, so it makes them expire faster. Bloodborne, damage of deep wounds, rend, and thunderous roars bleed effects are increased, or are increased by 15%. Feedback, bug. This tooltip says increased instead of increased. There, I'm being a good beta tester. Dreadnought, Overpower has 2 charges and causes a seismic wave, dealing damage to all enemies in a line and reduce damage beyond 5 targets. Blood Surge, your bleed effects. Your bleed effects have a chance to grant you rage. Interesting. I don't know if that effect's already been in the game, but that's kind of like Assassination Rogue, where like the more targets you get, the more rage you'll have flowing. Whirlwind costs more rage and has a cooldown, but it deals 200% more damage. This is a cool effect. I'm not sure if it'll be good, but I like things that sort of dramatically change the functionality of effects like this. Juggernaut, Execute increases damage dealt by Execute by 3% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. So you can get up to 60% more damage on Execute in really long Execute phases. Especially whenever they make bosses that like start at 20% health, like last time I did this was in Eye of Azara, I think. This was really, really, really OP. Anger Management, every rage you spend has a chance, or reduces the cooldown on Colossus Smash and Blade Storm. Cooldown of Cleave reduced. Okay. Mastery percent, verse percent, and crit percent. So no haste percent for arms, unlike Fury, available down here. Overpower has a chance to reset the cooldown of Mortal Strike and reduce the rage of your next Mortal Strike by 15%, or by 15. This seems really nice. Bloodletting, Deep Wounds Rend and Thunderous Roar's bleed effects last longer. Blade Storm, big AoE cooldown. Warbreaker, I think this replaces Colossus Smash on live. I'm curious if it does here as well, because it's like AoE Colossus Smash. And it's on a 45-second cooldown instead of 1.5 as well. Skull Banner, 3-minute cooldown, 10-second buff for you and your party. 20% increased critical strike damage for people within 20 yards of the banner. So this could be really big. If you have like 2 Arms Warriors in your group, or 3 or something, like 3 Arms Warriors, 1 Enhancement Shaman, and 1 other melee or whatever, and you just send a Skull Banner every minute on 1-minute cooldowns or whatever, that could be some big damn for the party if you stack it right. So yeah, this is good news for the guilds that have people that can just re-roll into DPS Warrior if this is good. This is good news for the guilds that are going to bench people and move people into parties and do all that kind of stuff, play the meta specs and build comps like that. It's bad news for guilds that are just trying to play with, whoever they've got, that are just trying to play with a warrior that wants to play Fury because they have more fun on Fury. It's bad news for guilds that don't want to be losing a lot of damage because they're not doing all that stuff. So my condolences. I've advocated against this sort of effect being in the game, and I will continue to do so, especially only being for Arms, man. It's so hard to imagine a world where Arms and Fury can be evenly balanced with effects like this. It's only up for 10 seconds out of every 3 minutes, but so it's less bad than a lot of the other stuff like this that we've seen, but still, it's a direction that I'm sad to see the game go without kind of committing to giving this sort of stuff to everybody, because, yeah, again, like, really hard to imagine that you wouldn't be better off with an Arms Warrior in like 90% of cases than a Fury Warrior when something like this exists, unless Fury is just doing so much damage that it's ridiculous. Fatality, your Mortal Strike abilities against enemies above 30% health have a very high chance to apply Fatality. When an enemy falls below 30% health, your next execute deals increased damage per stack. That is so sweet. I love this. This was a God, what was this effect? There was like a trinket in Eternal Palace or something that did this, or an Azurite trait or something. That was cool. It was really cool. Unhinged, while Blade Storm is active, you automatically cast 2 Mortal Strikes at random nearby enemies. This was like a set bonus in Legion as well. Sharpened Blades, while using swords or axes, your crit chance is increased, and your execute has increased crit chance. Versus Blunt Instruments, while using maces or polearms, the duration of Colossus Smash is increased. Sharpened Blades here seems pretty sweet. I guess duration of Colossus Smash is good too, though. Merciless Bone Grinder, when Blade Storm ends, Whirlwind and Cleave deal increased damage. And Exploiter, execute increases the damage that your target takes from your next Mortal Strike, stacking up to 2 times. Yeah, so this used to make a rotation of like execute, Mortal Strike, execute, Mortal Strike, which was kind of fun. I kind of like that they're bringing in the swords and axes being different than maces and polearms for warriors as well. That's kind of a core, iconic thing about warrior history. It's pretty cool there. All right, let's take a look at the Prot Warrior talent tree. So, got Ignore Pain at the top, recently buffed in Season 4 on live. Oh, it's on a 1-second cooldown, so you can't turbo spam. I wonder if I think it already has this, actually, yeah. Revenge, I've heard there's something very buggy with this on where you can get, like, this infinite no cooldown, because it doesn't have a cooldown. You could just, like, hard spam it on alpha right now. Demoralizing Shout, ooh, 45-second cooldown on this, nice. Devastate, single target attack. Last Stand, increase your health. Booming Voice, Demoralizing Shout also generates rage and increases the damage you deal. Okay, so a little offensive side of that. Versus Revenge, dealing more damage and even more damage whenever it's been procced instead of just hard cast. Strategist, Devastate, Thunderclap, Revenge, and Execute have a chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Shield Slam. Brace for Impact, using Shield Slam increases your block value and the damage of your next Shield Slam, and you get multiple applications of this effect, so you get a pretty high block chance. Historically, you would just have 100% block chance by pressing the button Shield Block, but it looks like that may not be a thing in Dragonflight. Last Stand increases your rage generation by 60%. Challenging Shout, AoE Taunt, very nice in M+. Devastator. This replaced Devastate historically. I don't know if it still does. That is just a passive that, yeah, makes your autos better, but you don't have a Devastate button to spam anymore. Parry Chance. Bloodborne. Okay, so all the warrior specs have Bloodborne somewhere on their tree, just a bleed damage increase. Versus Blood Surge, which is that bleed effects granting you rage. Cool, so you could choose between these. Fueled by vengeance or by violence, get healed for the damage of your deep wounds. Improved Challenging Shout, which comes with a spellcasting interrupt and lockout as well. So it's like an AoE. Wow, it's like an Arcane Torrent. Not an Arcane Torrent, because it's only an interrupt. It doesn't come with a silence or anything like that as well. That's kind of cool, though. AoE interrupt and taunt. That will be sort of similar to like Sigil of Silencing a pack, right? Like if you run into a pack and do this, like all the casters are going to come in and fight you, and you can group them up really nice and easy. Show Force, revenge damage is increased, and it increases the damage of your next Thunderclap. Increase the radius of Demoralizing Shout, and each enemy hit by Thunderclap reduces the cooldown on Demoralizing Shout if you're hitting 3 or more enemies by 5 seconds per. So with that, you can do, back in the day, you could have Demo Shout really high uptime. Shield Wall, iconic. 3.5 minute cooldown there. I think it has a longer cooldown on live, but you can like reduce its cooldown with stuff. Blocking an attack deals damage back to the attacker. Bolster, Last Stand grants you shield block effect for its duration. Okay, so the shield block effect is still in the game, I guess, to let you guaranteed block, maybe. Heroic Throw inflicts deep wounds versus 1% of damage you deal adds to your active ignore pain. Shield Slam generates more rage and extends your block versus you gain haste for each enemy or ally within 10 yards. So a lot of haste from that, potentially. Shield Block lasts longer. Okay, so Shield Block is still in here. I don't see it on my... Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's just on the default warrior tree. So Shield Block is still in the game. Ignore me from earlier. Your attacks have a chance to make your next execute cost no rage, be usable on any target regardless of their health, and deal damage as if you spent 40 rage. Every rage you spend reduces the cooldown on Avatar and Wall by 1 second. Interesting. Yeah, this used to affect way more, and they've nerfed it over time. This seems like a fair set of things to affect in Dragonflight. Shield Wall gains an additional charge and grants 50% of its effect to all party members, so it grants 20% DR to your party, versus Shield Slam generating additional rage and reducing the cooldown on Shield Wall. These two were, I think, both Shadowlands legendaries, and this one, the Wall, was a good one in Raid for a long time. Punish, Shield Slam deals increased damage, reduces enemies' damage against you, and multiple punishments may overlap. So this will line up nicely with Brace for Impact, right? If you're in kind of like a, Shield Slam spamming single target life. Versus Execute increasing... Ooh, so you can get Juggernaut on Prot as well to increase your Execute damage. That might make Prot a bit of a single target monster. Kind of like it kind of already is. If you look at like Mythic Jailer logs, Prot Warriors do a lot of damage, particularly in that important... Well, used to be important time when the boss was low. Obviously, then they nerfed Jailer, and it was no longer an important time to do damage. Increases stamina and armor and haste. Increase block and block value. Block chance and value, so the amount that you block and how often you block. Strength, armor, and crit chance. Okay, so again, another stat line here on the 8th row for all the warrior specs and the warrior tree. These are interesting ones, though. These are all powerful and a lot of stuff going on these. Kind of want to grab all three. These seem like a lot of stats per point of talent. Shield Charge. Ooh, this used to be... I think this used to be like a gladiator warrior thing in WoD. I'm not 100% sure. 45-second cooldown, charge to an enemy with your shield, damage to it, and then a little bit of damage to enemies within 10 yards, and stun the primary target. Below that, you can get Shield Charge, granting you Shield Block and Revenge, and generates an additional 300 rage. I suppose that's probably not the correct number, unless I'm very wrong about how much rage you can have. Outburst, consuming 30 rage, grants a stack of Seeing Red, which transforms into Outburst at some number of stacks, causing your next Shield Slam or Thunderclap to be more effective and grant Ignore Pain. Indomitable, health increased, and every rage you spend heals you, versus Block Chance increased by up to 20% based on missing health. Spell Block, you're able to block spells cast against you for 14 seconds. Oh, cool. So Warriors always kind of had this problem where if there's like a one cast that you can reflect, we're good. If there's like 20 casts, 20 casters just blasting you, you're unbelievably dead on Prot Warrior. Something like Spell Block as a passive would go a long way to reducing that. As a 14-second buff once every 2 minutes, it's still good, but it is still probably a weakness for Prot Warrior, is like sustained heavy incoming magic damage. But now there is some counterplay, and there's something you can talent that will help you against that. So I think this is a cool way of doing this, actually. Ravager, available there. AoE, throwy, sword, spinny. Then, yeah, there's the shield charge buff that we talked about. Down here, there's when your health is brought below 35% health, you take 100% less damage for some amount of time, and healing you receive is increased by 100%. Cannot occur more than once every 60 seconds. My guess is the numbers are not final. Also, anytime you see 4 until canceled, that means it's like 4 some amount of time that they haven't chosen yet. Storm of Seal, Ravager duration increased. Okay, boring. All right, well, that's the Prot tree. This looks quite good. A lot of stuff in here. Seems like you can get a pretty high block chance by default, even without shield block. But yeah, Prot Warriors kind of historically has been like you need shield block to be up to be comfortable tanking. But that may not even be the case with all this stuff. I'm not sure. This seems like a pretty cool talent tree. I would say the warrior trees in general have seemed pretty cool, though. This seems like a nice class with some nice talent trees. I will admit, I know that a lot of warriors are already pretty excited about these ones, so may have been biased in coming to that assessment, but my look at it as well. I am pretty excited about playing warrior next expansion. I hope I get to play this class somewhat. Anyways, that's the end of this video. Look in the description if you want to see versions of this talking about the other classes that have come out so far. Hit subscribe, hit like and stuff if you like this video. It'd help out a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.